Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to the Cooper Lyden Podcast Hour, an hour of podcasting, now brought to you by See's Candies Peanut Brittle. It is not a full See's Candy sponsorship. They only gave us the Brittle sponsorship. We're starting off with the Brittle, see if we do good there, and then we might have a full See's Candies sponsorship. If you're not familiar, See's Candies is I think only LA-based chocolate company. The peanut brittle is also something they make. They now sponsor us. We're also sponsored by Zyn Chill. Once again, Zyn nicotine pouches, not the entire company, just the chill. So we're starting off with flavors in both companies. They're great. You just put it in your lip and you got nicotine. Dipless, spitless nicotine, no tobacco, on the go. And listen, now in California, you can't have flavors. So there's just chill and there's smooth, which are somehow legal flavors, but you can't have citrus or anything like that. But what you can do is you can take some of the See's Candies peanut brittle, and it's hard. You can take a chunk of it, put it in your mouth, also have a nicotine pouch in the mouth, put it over, it'll seep into the nicotine pouch. Then you have peanut brittle flavored nicotine, and that is something that is offered only here because the idea has only been posited here of putting a chunk of peanut brittle and a Zyn chilled nicotine pouch in your lip at the same time. That's only offered here because it's the first place you've heard the idea, and we're calling it an offer. I did find out that Tucker Carlson, the Fox News pundit, he's kind of their head honcho over there, I think. I think he has multiple shows. But he's a huge fan of Zyn nicotine pouches, which is funny to know that I have one thing in common with that guy. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a guy that sits around hating people on the news, but you know, I'm pretty aware based on his political views and what he does for work that we're pretty different guys. You know what I mean? I don't see a lot of similarities between me and Tucker. But there's one thing that we could talk about, and it's how much fun dipless tobacco is. To just walk around with, I don't know, it would be funny to talk to Tucker, because he would just be like, man, I put a kid in a cage, you know? And then I'd be like, whoa, what about Zyn pouches? I also think that Tucker, when he is in the privacy of his own home, just does a really bad impression of like a black dude from the 70s. I think that's how he talks all the time. Honestly, in his show, he's almost getting there with his anger, where he's like, and what's wrong with that? And why can't we do this? He's right on the cusp of like, and what's the problem? Like he is right there at all times. That is his tone. That's a lot of his show. It seems fun to do that show. I mean, if you are fine with being kind of just a voice for, you know, conservative companies, like just companies in general, if you're fine with being a voice for corporate interest and certain politicians that are also bought by corporate interests, if you're fine with that, that's like the super fun show to be on. I think he's probably the news guy having the most fun, I think. Because like CNN and them is like, they have to be serious. That seems tough, you know? That seems annoying. Like Anderson Cooper can never like riff, really. You know what I mean? He always just has to be like, this is the greatest tragedy that's ever happened. You know what I mean? Like every week they have to go on, and every time somebody they don't like passes a bill, they have to be like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. This is horrible. And it's terrible. And we don't know what we're going to, but we must, you know. But they can't even really talk about fighting. I feel like on Fox News, it's like when Tucker brings up some bill that was passed by somebody he hates, he gets to be like, we need to fight this. We are a team. And he gets to almost turn it into like a positive rally cry. Where with CNN, it's like, this is the worst day in American history. And then they like mourn the loss of an idea or something. You know what I mean? They have like weird mourning that they have to do when they're on that show. But Tucker just gets to be like, Oh, they want to do this? Well, guess what we're going to do? And like that doesn't even have, whatever he's saying doesn't have to be true, but it gets people excited. You know what I mean? It gets people amped. It seems like way more fun. And now he just talks about like nicotine all the time. And I think it started, I don't know. I don't watch his show. I don't watch any news. Not as a, it's not like I'm one of those guys like, that's all a lie. It is. But also, even if it wasn't a lie, I still don't think I'd watch it. You know what I mean? Which is kind of an excuse that I feel like a lot of people have now. Like, you know how like nobody really watches the news, but everybody's like, oh, they're all just fucking corporate interests and greed. And it's like, true. But if the news was like purely factual, I still don't think you'd watch it. Because if it was purely factual, they'd be like, well, they attempted to pass a law in Congress. It seems like it's going to go through, but it's going to take about 3 more days. They're going to need these many more votes. And if it does pass this, it is not all encompassing. You know what I mean? Like, there's no absolutes almost. You know, it's like it's not fun to talk about the truth. You know what I mean? Or like, or just to have no opinion on stuff, just to be like, Trump spoke in China today, and then show a video of it and just be like, all right, you know? Like with Trump, like it was more fun to be like, he's going to kill us all or whatever. But if you just had to be honest and just be like, and he spoke today, and you can think what you would like to think about that. Nobody wants to watch that news either. So, but anyway, I don't watch his show, but sometimes I would see his stuff on. It's good when your roommate just slams the door for no reason. I saw his clips on Twitter a little while ago. He was defending this Republican congressman who was trying to be allowed to smoke cigars in his office, which I feel like I've talked about. Yeah, I've talked about on this podcast before, actually. Maybe this is more of a Republican podcast than I'm realizing. But I think that's where it started, of talking about tobacco being an American institution and all this shit. And now it's like gone to the point where he's on just like fucking like the Send It podcast and shit, and like Nelk Boys or whatever, what are those dudes doing. He's on like bro podcasts, you know what I mean? And he's just talking about Zyn. So he's just deep into nicotine now. Like he's just gone really into the fact that it's an American institution and a right. And that's stuff that we could agree on, because when it does come to cigarettes and regulations on them, I don't like it. Which is funny because I like guns being regulated, and I think it is kind of fair to say that cigarettes kill people a lot more directly than guns, you know, and there probably should be regulations on them. But for the most part, I don't like the idea of it, because it's I don't know, I think either do it or don't do it, where it's like if they came out and they're like, we're banning all tobacco products forever, I'd be like, you know what, good, now I don't even have the choice, fuck it, this will suck for a few months, and then I'll do other shit or whatever, be fine. I don't get mad about the idea of it. You know what I mean? I don't get mad about, like, what does this say for us? That just is waste. But if they just said no more, then I'd be like, all right, I'll deal with it, you know? But the way that they're like, well, no, you can still use nicotine pouches, they just can't taste as good, is you're just like, well, now you're trying to make me quit by making the experience worse. You know, or you're trying to not incentivize kids to do it by making the experience worse. But at the end of the day, it's not like nobody's ever had a nicotine pouch in their mouth and been like, I really do it just for the flavor. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for the flavor, you know? But then again, you do hear some like kids that vape that are like, I can't do this flavor. I don't like that. I don't know. I usually smoke cigarettes. I smoke like a pack a day, so it pisses me off a lot when all these people are like, yeah, I love this flavor. This is my favorite flavor. It's like, why are you doing this? Because I'm doing this to foster a nicotine addiction and to support it, to keep it up so I don't punch you in the face. And before that, I was doing it to waste time outside of open mics. And before that, I did it because it felt fucking great, you know? And now it feels great in the way that, like, not drinking water after a while feels good. Like, it's not actually good. It's just like you made yourself need it. But my point is like, I'm not out here for flavor. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like I'm a dude that drinks Evan Williams every day, looking at guys that are like, I love the flavor of the scotch. It's like we are doing this for different reasons. And I feel like I'm accepting that this is killing me and this is terrible. And you're out here in fucking Mickey Mouse land talking about how tasty your death smoke is, you know? I don't want to be fooled. I like, cigarettes are nice because they're pretty upfront. You kind of, they're loaded with fucking terrible chemicals. I'm not calling it pure tobacco at all, but it's not flavor. It's just right in your face. You're like, this smoke fucking hurts and it doesn't taste great, but I don't even think about those two things while I'm doing it. So when there are people that are like, no, I can only vape and it's got to be this flavor, I'm like, then you shouldn't vape because it's a terrible thing to do and it fucking kills you. And if you're going to be so particular about it and act like it's like a Starbucks drink, then you should just quit. Like, if it's so easy for you to not like this thing that's terrible for you, then just don't do that thing. I will smoke a 3-day-old, hard, crunchy cigarette left in my ashtray if I don't have any else because I want it. And if you're not doing that, then you should quit because that means you have the ability to abstain at all. And I should quit because I don't have the ability to abstain. We should all quit. But my point is, like, I'm out here in the trenches trying to suck nicotine into my brain so I can be the greatest broadcaster in the world. And then these people are just acting like they're on fucking holiday. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, what a tasty cherry apple. You know what I mean? And it is tasty. But I don't even understand. It seems like these people would do it just for the flavor to me, which seems crazy. Because they do make flavored vapes that are just like water to get people off of smoking. So it's like, just do that. You're more into the act of it. I don't even know if you care about a nicotine buzz. You know what I mean? God damn it, I care. I care a hell of a lot. I would appear on the Tucker Carlson show if we agreed to only talk about nicotine. And maybe that would bridge the gap. You know what I mean? That would be it would be a funny thing, because if I went on his show and we talked about almost any political issue, he would just be so mad at me. He would be so upset with me and my beliefs, and I would be upset at him and his, whether or not they're his beliefs or the beliefs of the people writing the shit he's saying. Either way, it just wouldn't work. But if we went on and we were like, yeah, I'll fucking talk about getting teed out, I can talk about that all fucking day, then we'd have a great time. You know what I mean? We'd be good friends. I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out. I'll reach out and I'll be like, what's up, man? I'm 23. I love nicotine. I think it's great. I'd love to come on and just talk about how cool it is. And honestly, with the way Fox News works, maybe they'd be like, ooh, a young person, you know? Or maybe I could come on and I could almost be, because I think right now, like, the fighting for tobacco rights and shit is mostly a Republican issue for whatever reason. I think it's just because it's a small issue and it's coming from a few people and they're all Republicans. They want to smoke cigars or whatever. But maybe I could be like the black conservative, you know, as in like the liberal nicotine advocate, you know what I mean? Because maybe there's not a lot of us. I'd be like a shining light. I've been a nicotine advocate politically for many years, since high school. I remember I was in Youth in Government, which is a nationwide group. It exists possibly in all 50 states, and it's like it's a YMCA program, and I'd say about 30 or so kids at each program. They are their own delegation. So there were like 2 in the San Fernando Valley, and a few more in the LA area, and then up California and across the country. And every year we would go to the California state capitol. So I think those were our like state meetups. But I think some of those kids might have gone to national meet. I don't know. But we would go to the California state capitol, and you would run a mock government. You would elect a new student youth governor um, of California, and you would have debates, and you would sometimes, like, it was kind of like almost like different classes or workshops. So it's like, this is a lobbyist workshop. You guys are gonna build a case and lobby for this, or you guys are a Senate workshop and you're gonna do this, or if you were like the youth governor, you had to do like weird shit by yourself. Like, they were pretty serious about it. I remember I was in one class, one seminar thing that was actually in the Capitol. Not all of these seminars were in the Capitol, but this was in one of the halls of the Capitol where they debate real things like throwing out our damn water. And hey, just kidding, or not. I don't know what's going on with that. But we were in one of there, and it might have been a lobbyist meeting, because we were talking about putting pictures of the effects of cigarettes on cigarette boxes, the way they do in Europe. Like, they'll show like a guy with no jaw, and then they'll just say like, this is a dangerous chemical. Or like, I think even sometimes they'll even have like a bio. It'd be like, this is Nathan. He's 15. Look how fucked up he looks, or something like that. And they do that in almost every other country except America. Cigarette boxes are all the same. They're just black, and then the brand is just a white letter, and then there's like a yellow warning sign and a picture of a dying woman. And they were saying, should we do that in America? Should we? This is important. Do we do that in America to discourage people from smoking? And I stood up just like an absolute patriot, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I think I even probably said some of the things that Tucker Carlson, and I was a liberal, I still am, but I think I said even some of the things that Tucker Carlson said. I was like, this is a free country. We have a right to tobacco and to smoke and to do what we want, and we shouldn't be told that we're doing something wrong, because the effects of cigarettes have been known for years. If anybody doesn't know, that is your fault. There's no reason to put it on the box itself. By the time you're purchasing the box of cigarettes, you are probably already accepting the possible effects. As ignorant as you are, it's something that kills you. And I was going off, and people were feeling me. I was spitting. And I said, this is like putting, if we're going to do this, we might as well put pictures of fat people on donut boxes if you really want to talk about it. I mean, really, the amount of things in our society that kill us is insane. And to act like cigarettes are the only one, and to demonize them and ruin their branding opportunities for such a belief is absolutely ridiculous. And at one point I said, fuck, and you can't cuss. So once I cussed, I had to cease my time to the room. But kids were amped. Because I was a kid in high school smoking cigarettes, because I was going to, open mics or whatever. And also there were tons of other kids in there. These are all like smart, cool kids, you know what I mean? So like, we would be dressed up for the Capitol, but they would be looking like a fucking like 90s UK goth group. You know what I mean? Like long coats and like they were all like alt kids. So they were like smart, probably all went to Berkeley besides me. But they would all fucking chug nicotine and Adderall every day. Like, they were fucking pieces of shit. So they were amped on it. But yeah, I mean, I've always been an advocate for tobacco rights in America, for nicotine equality, and just for making sure that nicotine gets in the hands of kids. I've always thought about how nice it would be to be a lobbyist. It seems so fun. It's just kind of the same thing with Tucker, though. It's like, if you can kind of sacrifice a little bit of your morals, you can be so good at that job. You just have to be willing to look at like a 15-year-old girl who got cancer from vaping and be like, you chose to do this. This is your fault. All we did was make flavors that people could enjoy their nicotine with. We are not trying to bring children into this. We say on our own boxes that children cannot smoke this. We make it very clear. She made her own decision to buy cigarettes, nicotine, whatever it is, illegally, and get herself into this situation, something that we do not support. We would never sell to her. Whoever sold her that, or whoever bought her that, is absolutely against what our company stands for. And she has no right to come in here and say that it is our fault for providing a product that has been provided for years to the mass public. It is the parent's responsibility to take care of it, and then look at the father of the dying kid and say, where were you? Where were you when she was out doing these things that gave her this disease. You come in here now and say that it's our fault when the entire time you could have been a better parent, a loving father, a present father, and saved your daughter from this terrible disease? How dare you? How fucking... And then I'd have to sit down. But that'd be good, you know? It seems fun to be a lobbyist. It's just like, if you just don't give a shit, because you're just talking shit mostly. Like, you know, I think that one fucking movie got me jacked up. I forgot what it was called. It was, I don't know. But it was about the guy who's like struggling to teach his son about lying and being a good person while he's like a lobbyist for one of the big three. And they make that point in the show. Like David Koechner, I think, plays like an NRA guy, and his friend, she's like the alcohol person, he's a cigarette person. So they're like the three evils or something, and they lobby for them every day. And it's weird that that's a job, and I like the way the movie does. I feel like it's like Hello, so I don't know. I think I keep thinking of Be Kind Rewind, because I feel like the name is also a rhyme. But it's a good movie, but I like the thing they do is they have them hang out in the bar, and it shows you that it's just kind of a job. This isn't a documentary. This is a movie. But I feel like yeah, David Duchovny even maybe, I don't know. But I like it because it shows you that it's just a job, and that's when real evil stuff gets done. You know what I mean? Like when being a lobbyist is your job is when it becomes easy to just make that separation. It's the same thing as buying a cigarette. It's like once you make the decision to be a lobbyist or to buy a cigarette, you're now accepting of all the evils, whether you're aware of them or not. You know what I mean? That's when the real evil shit gets done, where it's like, well, how could you sit in front of a grand jury and call a 15-year-old a degenerate for being subject to the products that you lobby for? And it's like, because I get paid this much, because that's what I was told to do, it's because it's my job, and it's because I'm good at it. You know what I mean? But the minute that you start to have any feelings about what you're doing, the minute that you start to think maybe this actually is wrong and I'm hurting the American people, and whatever dreams I had when I was a speech and debate kid in high school of making change, I'm actually doing the opposite, or I am making change, but for corporate interests and not for the people. The minute you have that, you got to get the fuck out of Washington, because you got no business being there anymore. I mean, I have a lot of respect for guys that are fine to just make money any way possible and not think about a single fucking consequence of what they're doing. I abhor them. I hate them. They are like the epitome of this country, you know, in many ways. They're like the epitome of what we tried to set up became. You know what I mean? They're everything that's hurting us. It's just a few people trying to get theirs at the expense of literal lives, you know. But I think it's just kind of evil that's like fascinating to me, that, you know, you almost respect it in a way. You really do, because it's like Dick Cheney is like how do you not have respect for the evil swag that guy fucking has? That, like, you know, before he was in office, as far as I know from the Oliver Stone movie or whatever, the vice president was not a kind of glamorous office to be in. Nobody even really knew what that guy did, you know. And I think it's because at first the vice president was like just the guy that lost, which is a fucking awesome idea. Like, that would be so sick if McCain was Obama's vice president, you know, or if Hillary was Trump's vice president. Like, that would be amazing to just, I don't know, to see how that plays out, you know. I feel like it played out okay till then, because inevitably they have to work together. And by have to work together, I mean they just, at certain points, oftentimes they have to sit in the same room and talk about the same things. Whether or not they come to an agreement, I don't know. But getting those two people that have been told to hate each other all along the campaign trail to work with each other. But I feel like that was probably the reason the vice president maybe wasn't that big of a position for a long time, because nobody wanted you there, because you were the loser, but then you were for some reason made the second most powerful person in America on the surface. But now you just get your boy in there. But yeah, as far as I know, it's like the vice president wasn't that big of a deal, and then Dick Cheney essentially changed what the office of the vice president meant. At least for him. I don't know what Kamal was pulling. But for him, he was like, no, I'm going to turn this into a big power play, which I think is the way that you actually do politics. It's like, if you're really the president, you can't be the one really doing wild shit. You need to have a buffer. The buffer is what you fucking need. Because even still, it's like, where you talk about, like, Bush took us into Afghanistan, or, Bush took us into Iraq, or whatever. But did he? Or did Cheney, punch Bush in the armpit enough times so he was like, all right, we'll go, That makes a lot more sense to me. Who would really push for that if not the guy who's going to get way less flack for it than the guy who has to come out and tell everybody they're doing it? You know what I mean? And then also Dick was like, dude, they just bombed the towers. People are going to be so hyped on this, And he'll be like, they bombed it, but we bombed it, but it looked like, That's why you got to, there's just something amazing about that kind of, like, no moral veracity to have in the world. I mean, it's like, it's literally criminal. I mean, it's war criminal shit. It's like, I don't know. It's funny because people will call you crazy, less nowadays, but some people, older people, will say it's crazy to think that the American government orchestrated 9/11. But it honestly seems less crazy than the Taliban doing it. Not that they couldn't. Of course they could have. But the fact of if they would really want to, what they knew, what they had to have known would result from that. I mean, 9/11 is similar to the Pearl Harbor in the way that it was a smaller country just flying planes into our shit. It's very similar in a lot of ways. And either being in a frenzied state, just not giving a fuck, wanting to start a war, I don't know. But it's pretty obvious to both of them that it wasn't going to, like, work out. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like, I don't think the Taliban really thought they were going to do that, and then America was going to be like, okay, whoever did that, don't do it again. We're not going to, or if they found the Taliban, they'd be like, all right, what do you want? It's like there was no negotiation to it. The deed was already done. They could have at least threatened it before doing it, So to me, it doesn't make any sense, but it makes a lot of sense if you're Dick Cheney and you're like, hey, if we do something like this that'll help start a war, kind of like the way they ignored Pearl Harbor, we'll be able to get into a war, which nowadays means settlements and having control of land. This is the new way to colonize, is you just start a whole war. Because if you just go over there for no reason, then you're just colonizing. But if you go over there because they tried to blow up the White House and the Twin Towers and shit, then fucking you kind of seems like you're allowed to be there. You know what I mean? So he was like, we'll just do this. Well, it's fine. We'll lose 2,000 people. We'll lose way more once we start the war, and the people won't even care about that. We know that. We lose people in war all the time, but since it's war, they think it's okay. So we'll sacrifice these people the same way we'll sacrifice troops. We'll be allowed to start a war. We'll go over to Iraq. We'll defeat them almost instantly, like we did. Just crush them. And then we'll take control of that land, and then business is going to come in, and they're going to make tons of money, and yeah, I have a hand in a lot of those same businesses. And then I get to be a millionaire, and you get to be a millionaire, and we get to be millionaires, and we all get to be millionaires, and they're like, we're already millionaires, and they're like, no, like hundreds and hundreds of millionaires, like real millionaires. Like, we're bitch millionaires right now. Like, we're politician bitch, 5.3 millionaires. That's bullshit. I'm talking about, like, the poorest dude in this room after all this is done is going to have $56 million. You know what I mean? That makes total sense to do if you want to do that. And it's funny because if I were to say, like, that makes total sense to do, people would be like, well, no, it doesn't. It's evil. And you're like, you realize as long as you don't care then it's no longer evil. It's just an opinion on what you're doing. As long as you just don't really give a shit about the fact that that is what you're doing, that you're going into a country to kill a bunch of people just to get a little scratch. If you don't care, then it's not evil. And I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to convince other people to do who have already been in politics for a while. Because I'm sure, like, here's my thing. Let's say the government did 9/11. That means somebody had to pitch 9/11. Like, probably Dick Cheney himself went into a room of some of the most powerful men in the nation. Probably some of the guys that we never get to see, but they exist and control everything, you know what I mean? They were probably there. And he pitched 9/11. Because you can see he's fucking crazy, but he's real crazy. He's not like, I'll fight you in a bar crazy. He's, I will literally do 9/11 crazy. That's a kind of crazy that most regular people don't understand. The world-conquering crazy. He walked into that room and pitched 9/11, and I'm sure they were like, what? What are you talking about? You're out of your, that's the dumbest idea. And then he's like, no. He's like, how do we get into World War II? And they're like, well, Pearl Harbor. And he's like, uh-huh. And he's like, so we do that. And they're like, but. And he's like, hey, there's McDonald's in Hiroshima now, isn't there? And they're like, yeah. Some scratch off of that. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe, maybe we could do a similar thing. Maybe there could be some ExxonMobil pumps over in Iraq. It's a lot more money than a cheeseburger. Couple towers. You get $56 million. That's like a 10-minute tops pitch. 10 is a long time. Really, it's a 2-minute long pitch. As we blow up the towers, we go over there, we get a bunch of land that we can use for whatever the fuck they want. It's full of oil. Let's do it. And then the guys are like, damn, it seemed crazy. He's like, I know it seemed crazy. He's like, right, because the plan starts with blowing up the Twin Towers. He's like, I know that's the crazy part. But that's the thing, is the first part has to be crazy. And they're like, that's true. There's something crazy does have to happen first. You have to galvanize a nation and really the world in favor of doing what you're doing. And they're like, do you think anyone will say no to war? And they're like, maybe literally one person, and then everybody will forget. And I think that's what happened. I think literally upon talking about going into Iraq, there was like literally I mean, there are tons of talks about it, but there was a vote on something, on some shit of either, are we allowed to do this or should we do it? There was something, and there was like one representative that was like, no, this doesn't even make sense. You can't just go to war with the whole country because a couple fucking guys did it. Like you at the most we should maybe have special operations to go try and find them. But you don't need to declare war and take over a government and a country and displace leaders. And everybody was so hyped on 9/11 that they were like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Democrats in the early 2000s, pretty Republican acting people. And they were like, shut the fuck up. And then they went. And they made so much goddamn money. I don't know. I remember there was this it's like comic book thing. I think I gave it to my friend actually to read. It's very interesting. But it is a comic book. But it was presented that way, I think, just to make it better for students. I read it in college, and it was talking about well, this is good. There's a bunch of mowing going on outside, and I'm really hoping it's not getting picked up in the mic. If it is, I'm sorry, because I'm not stopping the podcast. I'm not changing anything. We're just going to roll through it. Don't start listening for it. But I had this book. It was like a comic book, and it just talked about political deals, essentially. And it was a real kind of fucking commie book in a great way. Because there was some stuff in there that was like recorded transcripts of stuff that I don't think was really supposed to be all that public, or guys were just saying this shit when they didn't think it was a problem to say. But at one point, a guy referred to the earth as the business of the world. And what he meant by that is that every country, every place, every group of people or whatever is like a potential money maker. And that is real big business. Is taking over a country, stripping it of resources, using it and abusing it to get what you want. That makes so much more money than just selling shit to people. You know what I mean? Because it's funny because it's like, I don't believe that Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. I don't think there's any fucking way that you become the richest person in the world by selling cars or even everything like Jeff Bezos does. Like, I don't think that would make you the richest man in the world. I feel like if you took all of the natural resources from 15 African countries and you almost alone reaped most of the benefits of that. Like, there's so much money going around with, precious metals that you're mining for phones or whatever. There's so much money going around. But if you're the idea man, you're doing all that, you're getting most of the money, like that would make you the richest man in the world. That's why I think the richest man in the world, we don't know who he is, because there's no way that you have more money than everybody else and you did it the right way. I mean, even the one we know about, like fucking Jeff Bezos is like, I think Elon's the richest now, but like Jeff is like, they got fucking, terrible factory conditions. People are passing out, and when they wake up, there's just some guy in an Amazon vest over him, like, get back up, time to pack more boxes, you know what I mean? And Elon, like, his cars are just blowing up and shit, and, he really makes the most money because he gets, like, the carbon tax thing, which is, like, you're only allowed a certain number of carbon units per car company. Let's say 50. It's a different number. It's a big number, but let's say 50. Ford is allowed 50 carbon units. Tesla is allowed 50 carbon units. Every car company, no matter what kind of cars they make, which means that Tesla, which is a car that emits no carbon, has leftover carbon units. They have 50 to give away every year. And if you have extra, you can sell them to other companies like Ford. So Ford goes, we only got 50. We want to make a lot. We need 100. Let's buy Elon's carbon units. And then Elon is pretty much selling, like, for every Tesla he sells, he's almost selling another imaginary car to Ford that they make. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all bullshit no matter what, whether you're just making money off weird laws or if you're fucking just using and abusing people. So it's like, if you're truly the richest, the shit that you must be doing is like, iPhones must be made out of children's scalps, and whoever's fucking set up that business is fucking rolling in it. Like, that must be the way to do it. I don't know. That's who's making the money. And good for them. And good for them for having no fucking morals and doing that shit. I don't even understand why you want that much money. And I'm not trying to be like, it's not about the money, but I think when you get to $100 billion, it's not about the money. It's about what the money can get you, which is into anywhere, and you do whatever you want. It's like, it's crazy. You just become your own kind of power. Like, every president in the world would be like, I'll meet with the richest man in the world. Because he has power. He can just give you power. He can just give you... I mean, he has more money than some countries. He can walk around a country and go, I'm worth more than everything here. Everything they do, everything they sell, everything they import, everything. I'm worth more. So I guess that's why you want it. You want an insane amount of power. It's funny because you look at... It's scary, too, because you think... evil people look like it. But they just look like regular guys. Like, Jeff Bezos is a bald man who's, like, kind of ugly. So that's a good look for kind of a villain, But even still, it's like, if you see him walking down the street, you just like, that's a regular guy. You can't see it. But you don't know that in his head is a kind of ferocity that will just murder people in cold warehouses to make more money. I mean, the amount of money he makes a second, like, that's I like that part of being that rich is how much money he makes a second. I think that's cool. Because he makes like 30K a second. I think more now. But he makes like around 30K a second or something like that. Which means you go to lunch and none of that lunch didn't even happen. You know what I mean? You can have a $30,000 lunch and you made it back. You're fine. It's not a big deal. I would love to, I mean, really I don't know. I would like that guy to like me, which must be great to just be a hot ass lady like his wife, you know, that's like you just get to go to dinner, you know what I mean? And now his ex-wife, good for her. I think that's why he's not the richest man. She took like almost half. And she's just throwing it around at fucking charities. And having a lot of fun with it. The way she should, you know. But I don't know. Good for them. I went to San Diego this weekend. I went to San Diego to do 4 shows at the Madhouse Comedy Club. 4 spots. I was not headlining because I'm not a headliner and I can't sell tickets because nobody listens to this podcast. But went down to do 4 spots at Madhouse. I also did a Don't Tell comedy show, which is their production. They don't have a club, but they find unique venues for you to do shows at, which is cool because, it's 4 nights at a club. But this, like, Don't Tell show that was just outside of a brewery was, like, better than half the shows at the fucking club. I got to do 15-plus minutes, and it was fun. I just had fun with them. I felt like a comedian, you know what I mean? Especially when you're doing comedy out of town. I mean, I'm in LA, it's San Diego, it's not far at all. But even just out of town in a place you're not from, you feel more like a comedian because you're rolling in. They don't know you. You don't really totally know what they're like. You know what I mean? Every place is different. You think San Diego and LA would be similar, and of course they are, but they're definitely not the same, you know? But you come in, you're able to make these people laugh that don't know you. And it's fun. I did 15-plus minutes, and they were a fun crowd, too. As I knew they were fun from the beginning because the comic that was on before me, she asked if the crowd was vaccinated, which she wasn't asking out of safety. It was part of a joke, so, it made sense. But it's always weird, just even now, the pandemic's still going on, but to many people it's over. Like, comedy rules don't necessarily go by what is actually happening, but it's like, how do people feel? So it's in comedy-wise, the pandemic is over. You don't talk about it. There's no reason to. But she asked, she was like, has anyone here been vaccinated? And the crowd, most of the crowd wooed, most people. But one guy booed. One guy went, boo, just to the idea. And she kind of rolled past it, which if I was up there, I'd be like, this is the rest of the set. Like, this is so funny to me. It's so funny, guys, that boo the vaccine. It's not even like I look down on them as stupid. I just think it's funny to see somebody with such a hard stance on anything, especially when it's the vaccine. It's like, damn, like that's what gets you mad? Maybe I don't care enough about stuff, but like I don't even give a shit. It's crazy that is even in your head at all. But he booed the vax and she skirted past it. But I went up after her and I started off my set. I just go, man, give it up. Give it up for that dude that just fucking, I think I called him a patriot, but I was like, give it up for the patriot that booed the vaccine. And then the crowd laughed just at me mentioning it. And I was like, isn't it nice, though, that we're at a point with the pandemic where that did not end the show? I was like, do you guys remember, even just a year ago, if that guy was back there booing the vaccine, everybody would be like, we have to get out of here. We have to go, But now everybody's just like, hey, I don't know if it works. Fuck it. Who knows? Like, everybody has become, most people you talk to have become conservatives when the vax first came out. You know what I mean? Every liberal and normal whatever person that did get the vaccine is now, if you talk to them, they're like, I don't know. I mean, I got COVID after I got it, but I didn't die, so maybe it worked. Maybe I would have died, but I don't fucking know. I'm not a doctor. And then the other guys are saying the same shit. They just, because of their beliefs, they didn't get it. But everybody's somewhat on the same page. I feel like the people that I like to talk to and I think are fun to be around are people that are on the same. The people that still, I don't know. I just feel like there's been such cosmic shifts for so many people politically that is surprising when you see people still like super pissed. Like, I know, of course, people are pissed because it's like one of the most divisive times in history. I understand why people are pissed, but I also don't understand why they don't do the opposite of just looking around and just being like, this is such like a pointless thing to be furious about. You know what I mean? Like, we've just seen that just getting mad at people doesn't get us anywhere. And we also see that this shit isn't going to end, so I can't be angry about it the whole time. So I'm always interested. It's like my dad will kind of be like that. He's more of like an MSNBC liberal, and he'll sometimes just be like, I fucking Republicans and shit. I'm like, damn, like, you're still pissed. Like, I thought many of us have reverted back to earlier politics where it's more just like, I mean, I guess a lot of earlier politics was literally the Civil War, but I guess I'm talking more about, like, I don't know. Have people ever been friends? I just feel like there was a time where, like, when a presidential candidate lost, they would just be like, fuck, right? And then you just kind of dealt with it. But now it's like a whole thing, Now it's either the death of democracy or the death of America. There's some fight to be had. It's a whole thing. I'm always interested when people still make a whole thing out of it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, I don't get how I think I'm obviously a 23-year-old idiot. I don't have any responsibility, so it's easier for me to not be upset by certain political decisions because, I think I'm affected a little bit less. I'm a little more nihilistic. I get it. I'm not on a side that's necessarily well thought out as much as it's an easier answer to not care about stuff than to care. But at the end of the day, it's like the guys making the fucking decisions don't care. They're just doing this shit. That's why they're getting it done, because they're just moving and just displacing all feelings or emotions or thoughts and just what's the goal, get this pat, So if you believe yourself to be some sort of freedom fighter or against that, then it's like, then chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? Or go throw a brick through some fucking windows and go nuts or go crazy. But don't be in the middle of just mad in your home, because that's what they expect you to be, I'm only mad about things in front of me, and I'm mad all the fucking time. But it's never about anything important. It's just things in front of me. Because as dumb as I am, I can't sit in my fucking house and be mad at stuff that are just decisions I have honestly nothing to do with. But I think people are pissed because they feel that they do have something to do with that. And they do. They're an American citizen, and laws passed affect them. But they really don't have any choice in the matter. It's people that are still like, vote blue no matter who, that believe that they have a big choice and a hand and a say in everything that's happening. And that's never been true. It's almost never been true. So it's like, just chill out. I don't know why this is a real political podcast, but I had fun at the show. I had a lot of fun at the show. I played around with them. My mom, my stepdad, my girlfriend, my brother, and his girlfriend all came to see my comedy show at Madhouse. It was an early show on Saturday, 8 p.m. It was packed, and I kind of crushed. I don't like to say the word crushed, because I have a high bar for that, but I kind of crushed. I kind of, everything I said got a huge amount of laughter, pretty much the whole room every time. So I kind of crushed. It was one of the best sets I think I've ever had, and definitely the best set I've ever had, like in San Diego, I would say. And the other ones were good, but this was just they were just really there for all of it. And even when there were like, accidents, because like these people in the front wouldn't really shut up, but they were just there for all of it. They loved every riff, sidebar, anything I had to say. They were like, hell yeah. And that was the one that my family came to, which I was so happy, because I don't really love it when my family comes to see me. I've kind of softened up recently, I think because being at the Comedy Store, people are starting to ask more. They're like, can we come? And I used to be like, no, you can't come now. But now it's like, whatever, come. I don't care if you see me bomb. I'm not going to quit. I've been doing this long enough. It's only 6 years, but in my lifespan, I've been doing it for a long time. I'm not going to quit. I don't care what you think. Just come, whatever. So now they come. And I had that feeling of before of like, who gives a fuck? But then on the drive there, I was weird. I was furious, but I didn't know why, which is crazy when you have rage that's not directed. I noticed it's a new feeling. You have rage that's not directed. When I just have anger issues, so it'll just build up. And I guess it is direct. It's coming from somewhere, but sometimes the rage is obvious. Like, this guy almost hit my car. That makes sense. But when you have rage that builds up, it's a softer feeling, and you don't really know what it is. You don't even know you're mad, but then you're just like gripping the fucking steering wheel. And I talked about it in the car, and the more I talked about it, the more I realized what I was angry about. I was just mad that my family was coming to see me, and that was just kind of it. I didn't want them to, because stand-up's so much more fun when it's just you alone out there. But now you have people like, hey. And I got more mad, really, because it became targeted. But yeah, I was like kind of unhappy that they were coming. But then I went up, and it was just good. And, it was good. And I'm pretty crass on stage. Crass. And, it was weird to have my mom there. But I think the reason I don't so much care about them coming now is because I don't change the material at all. I just keep it the same. And so if they were ever like, that was a lot, it's like, well, you came. Yeah, I didn't ask you to come. I've never asked you to come. But you wanted to. So, that's my thing, where I don't want this to sound cocky, but it's almost like, well, if you want to come and see me do stand-up, then you're going to just see me do stand-up. And, I asked my girl, she's a comic, so she's seen me go up before. But I asked my girlfriend, I was like, what was my mom like? And she was like, she liked the cleaner stuff. But when you started talking about, like, our relationship, which I don't talk about gross sex stuff, but it's like when you talked about, like, our relationship, where you talked about really, like, I have a joke about Grindr and, like, gay sex. And it's not graphic or anything. I mean, it's like, I'm not describing gay sex in the joke. But I was, it's like a gross joke. And she was like, yeah, she was like, ooh, That's why I think I think that's kind of why I don't care. It's almost like pranking my mom. She's like, can we come see you do stand-up? And I'm like, yeah. But it's like, I don't even think it's the kind of stand-up you would like. You know what I mean? I was surprised she wanted to come, because my mom doesn't like stand-up for a very good reason, which is that she just says it makes her nervous. She's like, when it's going badly, I crumble because they're bombing and it's so hard to watch. And she's like, and when they're doing well, I worry that they're just going to start doing poorly. And I was like, wow, that's how I feel on stage. You know what I mean? So I get it. I thought it was funny that she wanted to come at all, really. But, she wanted to support her boy and see it. And I did well, and that was good. And we celebrated my brother's birthday, and that was good. We went to a nice restaurant, and it was fun to be, like, with pieces of my family. I don't want to call it my family, because Papa's not there, so it's not the family, But with pieces of my family, with my girlfriend, and we just kept doing the kind of bits that we do. We're just we're weird, But I thought it was fun. Is like, my girlfriend was like, do you think they thought I was weird? I was like, yeah. But, like, it was with me, so I think everybody at the table was like, this makes sense. I understand this. You know what I mean? And I liked it. It was nice to see my girlfriend, because she wants to make people laugh, she wants them to like her, obviously. So she was really going for it. He was throwing out some jokes and some bits, and really going for it, and it paid off every time. And it's kind of nice to see the person you love come into, what can be kind of a scary situation of kind of meeting parts of somebody's family and really just kind of doing her thing and then being like, she's fun, you know what I mean? It's better than being like, she's a little quiet, maybe she'll open up. It's like, no, you got her this weekend. Like, you saw who she is, She was, fucking around having fun. But we had a good time. We had a funny moment. I was outside at night drinking a freaking beer with my girlfriend. We're at this really nice Airbnb, like this 2-story, 4-bedroom, really nice Airbnb in Oceanside, which is, I think, kind of a more wealthy area. It's a quieter, it's like 45 minutes outside of San Diego. And we were out there at like 11, like, a little late. And we were out there, and I was facing my girlfriend away from the street, and I see my girlfriend notice something and then keep noticing it and then be like, and then kind of stand up, and I look over, and there's just a man on the sidewalk. And she thought that the man was in the yard of the Airbnb because she couldn't really see over the barrier. And it kind of looked like he was just standing in the yard. And our yard door was open. So she was like, what the fuck? And then I look, and I just see a guy. I thought he was on the sidewalk, but I was still freaked out because it was 11. And he looked kind of scruffy. I didn't see his face, but he looked kind of scruffy. And he was just kind of standing there, just kind of waiting. And I was like, whoa. Because there's nothing scarier than seeing a homeless guy at a time and place where you don't see a homeless guy. You know what I mean? Like Oceanside in the suburbs, there's no place for him to sleep there. There's no store for him to buy stuff at. It's just nice houses. So I was like, what the fuck is this homeless dude doing? And he's on like a mission. You know what I mean? Like if you see a homeless dude in a nice area at a certain time of night, you're like, you're here to fuck somebody up. And I don't even know if that's a rude, mean, anti-homeless thing to say. It's just like, you don't have any business here. And you don't have any business because it's not like I'm going to be mean to you, but it's clear you have no business here. So you have no business. And that was terrifying. Seeing a homeless guy out of place, you're like, what the fuck is going on? So I stood up and then realized that the reason the guy was just kind of standing there weirdly is because he was just a regular San Diego guy walking his dog. So he was just like, but here's the thing. He's on a sidewalk, he's walking his dog, he's doing whatever. But it was like 11 p.m. and after we noticed him, like I stood up and was like, oh. And then my girlfriend for some reason was like, hey, said hi. And then he just sort of let his dog sniff around the grass on the sidewalk for like a long time. And he had every right to. But I think it was projective of me because I would have gotten out of there immediately. If I was like, whoa, these people are like on their patio late at night and I'm just like 10 feet away from them randomly. I'm just going to keep my dog moving and get out of here. I came out here to be alone too. But he was just letting him sniff and, just chilled directly in front of the Airbnb where we were sitting for like a minute. And part of me I didn't say anything, but you just want to be like, hey, move it along. You know what I mean? Why don't you move it along? You know what I mean? Surfer guy, whatever you're doing. Hey, you hippie, move it along. So isn't this uncomfortable for you that we're now, my girlfriend said hi to you, like, we're here. Don't you want to go? Don't you want to go back to your walk where you're kind of in your thoughts and alone or whatever? It was just chilling, and it was hard to get back into the conversation because it's like, you're not just going to go back to what you were talking about while there's a guy 10 feet away. It's like, it's just funny because it's like public sidewalk to private residence, and we were outside the private residence. So it's like, you can be there, we can be here, but you're destroying the whole reason. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing here? Get on, move along. Also, the gate was open. I wanted to close it, but I didn't want to close it in his face as if to be like, and you stay out of here. But he was just chilling. But it was terrifying for a second because it's just that weird feeling where you're like, do I have to fight a homeless guy? You know what I mean? Which I think means that I have bad thoughts about homeless people. Really, I should think, do I have to help a homeless guy and then be mad about that? But, hey, I don't know. Well, I think I'm going to think I'm going to end this one. Then I'm going to get on editing out all of the coughs, yawns, coffee sips, and Zin packet replacements throughout the episode so it can be smooth. I was recently on the Joe Code podcast. It's All Things Comedy Network podcast hosted by Joe Marisi, fellow door guy at the Comedy Store. It's very funny. A lot more viewers on that. 10 times more viewers, which is not a lot, but for me, huge. Go check it out. It's very funny. Thank you for tuning in. I love you so much.